We're gonna be shooting with the Sony FX3 with the Sigma 51.4 and also got the 35 1.2. But yeah, we're gonna put this thing to the test and see how it performs.
Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Peter Dubuslo, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over a brand new gimbal that just came out from Zhiyun. This is the Weebill Cinepeer 3E. It has a lot of cool functions, some pros and cons, and in this video, we're gonna be going over some of those pros and cons. Now, full disclaimer, I did have this gimbal for about a month. Zhiyun did send me this gimbal for free and they asked if I can make a review about it. And in this video, I'm just gonna be going over some of my personal pros and cons and whether if this gimbal is for you or not. Okay, so now some quick pros and cons that I like about the gimbal. Some pros: it's super small, lightweight, compact. It can hold up to 6.6 pounds, weighs only 2.23 pounds. And it has like a lot of cool functions. It's got a Bluetooth shutter control, a 0.96 inch screen where you got a clear view of what you're going through on the menu, a super fast auto tune stabilization function in the gimbal that I really like, especially if you're shooting weddings and you're going from lens to lens and you want to have the gimbal tuned. This gimbal can do it in probably, I would say, 5 seconds. One cool thing that I really like about the gimbal, and it allowed me to do the car shoot that I'm gonna show right now. It's got 3 mounting options on the bottom of the gimbal. I was able to actually put 2 screws with the tripod plate on top of the tripod head. It just gave me extra security to know that, that tripod plate is locked on the gimbal nice and solid, instead of only having 1 screw mounted underneath. It would have been a little sketchy because you only have a few threads of the screw. But in this case, we had 2 mounting options for the plate to be mounted onto the gimbal, and then it was later mounted on top of the tripod head. I didn't have any doubts that the plate was gonna come off the gimbal, so that allowed me to do that car shot that I showed in the beginning of this video. This gimbal also has a Bluetooth shutter control button that you can actually set in the camera itself in the Bluetooth setting. We also have a couple buttons in front of the gimbal. So if we triple click this, the camera will turn around and start facing me. If I triple click it again, it will turn around and face what's in front of me. So this gimbal has 3 shooting modes that are displayed on the screen when you click the M button. But if you double click it, it will bring you into 3 other shooting modes. So altogether, this gimbal has 6 shooting modes. Shooting mode that I shoot in and I just love shooting in is the F mode. I like shooting in F mode only because it kind of just moves wherever my wrist is moving. It's just the most common shooting mode that I love shooting, especially with pistol grip gimbals. Now, of course, we have 3 locking positions on the gimbal itself. We got 1 here on the bottom, 1 on the middle motor, and then also 1 on the top right motor. This allows you to kind of be super portable, go from one spot to another spot with the camera mounted on the gimbal. Now, we also have the power menu and a scroll function here on the right side of the gimbal. The scroll function actually has a press in button for you to hit OK depending on the menu setting that you're in, and it allows you to also scroll through the menu. And then we of course have the menu button and then the power button as well. Now, like I said, this gimbal can hold up to 6.6 pounds. I was able to shoot with the Sony FX3 and the Tamron 35-150. That is a hefty setup, and this gimbal is actually able to hold it up. I'm not even sure on the actual weight of that whole setup, but this gimbal handled it perfectly. My most popular rigging option is the Sony FX3 and the 35-1.2. Now, if you're not familiar with the 35-1.2 from Sigma, it is a hefty lens. So this gimbal can handle majority of my camera options. This gimbal is mostly made for mirrorless cameras, and all the lenses that I have owned, I have zero problems with mounting my camera on here and stabilizing most of my lenses that I currently own.
We were able to change lenses in I swear it was like a minute. Super easy to balance. I had the camera on there still, and literally seconds to balance.
Now there also is a native portrait switching mounting option on this gimbal, which is kind of cool. I'm just not a huge fan of shooting in portrait mode, so I don't really shoot in that mode, or I just don't feel like I have the use of shooting in portrait mode. But this gimbal gives you that option to do so, and it's super easy to set that up as well. This gimbal uses a Manfrotto style plate to mount your camera on top. So if you have a lot of Manfrotto plates, you can use those on any of the cameras that you currently own, and you can easily swap camera to camera. I currently have a Manfrotto plate on here right now and have the actual native Weebill Cinepeer 3E plate that came in the box on my Sony FX3 right now on my tripod that I'm using currently. So yeah, quickly just taking this out of the box, I noticed it was super small, comes with the nice 3-leg tripod mounting option. The gimbal's super lightweight, like I said in the beginning. If you are in the market for a good gimbal that is most commonly used for a mirrorless camera, I would highly recommend using the Weebill Cinepeer 3E, just because it's super small, lightweight. Like I said, it can hold up to 6.6 pounds. So I've had this gimbal for about a month now, and I've never even charged it once, even using it on a full wedding day. The batteries inside can hold up to 16 hours of usage. I currently have half a battery left, and that's from me using this gimbal, I would say a good solid 6 to 10 times, and I've never even had to charge this thing once. I do have a wedding this weekend. I'm probably just gonna charge it up just in case, because I'm gonna be having my FX3 on here for majority of the time. A little joystick right in the front of the gimbal here, where we're able to control the movement of the gimbal itself. Cool accessory that you can get for this gimbal is the Sling Mode 2.0. It's basically something that attaches to the gimbal and attaches to your wrist and gives you a different shooting experience. Maybe it gives you a little bit more of a comfort, especially if you have a bigger setup, if you are using on the Cinepeer Weebill 3E. So that would be also separate. That is not included in the package that I got if you do just buy the gimbal itself. So this gimbal has a 0.96 inch screen that is located right in front of the gimbal. From using this gimbal just for about over a month now, I gotta say that going through the menus and different settings, it was very easy to go from one setting to another just because of the size of the screen. It's not too small, but it's also not too big. It's just perfect enough for you to go from setting to setting. Now, I currently do not know the price of the gimbal because at the time of making this video, I didn't get an updated sheet of what the price is. So by the time I post this video, I will have the price. So I'll put the price somewhere up here. Okay, so I just went through everything that I like about this gimbal. I'm gonna talk about a few things that I don't like about the gimbal, especially using it for just over about a month. One thing that I don't like about the gimbal is where the locking mounts of adjusting the camera onto the gimbal itself, where those are located. The locking adjustments are basically right on the back underneath the plate here. I find the majority of the time I'm above where the camera is, so therefore I can't see where these locking pins are, and I just find that I don't know which pin is locking what. So majority of the time I gotta tilt my camera down and see where these locking pins are, and then I'm able to find them after. I guess just using the gimbal over time, you will get comfortable of which locking pin is for what, whether it's for the tripod plate or for just if it's the locking pin to slide the camera from left to right. I've been using the Sony FX3 with the 35 1.2, and my gimbal is almost back all the way. I would say that's probably the only downside of what this gimbal has to offer. Majority of everything else I love. The gripping of this gimbal is nice, although I feel they could have wanted somewhat of a different material for the actual grip itself. especially shooting a wedding for 10, 12 hours. Your thumb gets a little sore over time, but it's not a huge deal. One other thing that I wish they added to the gimbal is a mounting option to put arms, like dual arm setup for the gimbal, something where you want to run around with 2 grips instead of just holding it here. But at the end of the day, I feel like this gimbal is made for smaller cameras and smaller cameras only, or a smaller mirrorless setup like my setup. Therefore, I feel like you might not even need the dual grip setup, and the pistol grip itself is just good enough. It is nice to have a different grabbing or setup position instead of grabbing it like this the whole time, and especially having 2 handles, it just gives you a little bit better leverage, something different to switch up, especially if you're shooting for a longer period of time. All right, that's it for this video. If you guys are interested in purchasing this gimbal, I will have links below in the description for you guys to purchase. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any comments or anything particular about this gimbal itself, let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer. Other than that, we'll see you guys on the next video. See ya.